On tonight's show, we talk about the aftermath of the NBA All-Star Game and what should come out of Sunday's debacle. Also, we talk about the Kyle Filipowski situation at Duke, where he got injured when the Wake Forest student body stormed the court. What can all parties do to avoid these situations down the line? Plus, the second half of the NBA season is underway. What teams are we looking out for to kind of come out on top? Plus, we'll go over scores and news around the world of basketball. This is Fast Break, live for IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all sports, and you're welcome to join us. And join us as you shout tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Lots to talk about here tonight. Here on tonight's show. Oh, come on now. Don't do this to me. Lots to talk about here on tonight's show. Thank y'all for tuning in with us tonight. Lots of things to get into in the basketball world. D-Lock, how you doing tonight, sir?
Definitely catch a few games. Definitely seen my boy Bankero, make a clutch shot recently against the Pistons. Lose yesterday. It was teeing up like crazy in the interview. So, but now that the All-Star week is over, we're back, man, and definitely a good part of it, and a good part of the season now.
Yeah. Second half of the season is kicking off now. Everybody returned Thursday for the most part, and I must say, your Orlando Magic looking pretty good. And right now, kind of talk about them real quick. They're up on halftime at 51-45 against the Atlanta Hawks. With Franz Wagner 14 points for him. Banchero's not playing tonight, but right now they got the lead on the Hawks. Wendell Carter got 10 points, 6 rebounds for him. On the Atlanta side of things, it seems like Mr. Trae Young is going to be out. He'll need surgery on his hand. So that's going to be, a big blow to them when they're trying to make a playoff push in the second half. And to kind of stay with the Hawks for a little bit, D-Lock, I watched that game on Friday night between the Hawks and the Raptors. Because locally now we got like a Atlanta station here. And they play the Hawks games on Friday nights. And I watched that game against the Raptors. And the way Trae Young hurt his hand, it didn't look like much, but he was down on the ground for a little while. And Chris Snyder was very, very hot about it. So much so he got to the rest face and they had to hold him back. And he got ejected immediately after that, man. After, what I read to you right there, and the Hawks, where they at in the playoff race at 10, at 24-32, they're down in halftime to your Orlando Magic, who are a half game behind the Pacers for the 6th spot. A shout out to the chat real quick. Tam Rodriguez, how you doing tonight, sir? Yeah, we'll get to the court storming here in a little bit. But he brought a good point. Do the Hawks start tanking at this point? 4 weeks isn't bad, but 4 weeks, how close you are in the standings. What should the Hawks do in this 4 weeks? Tank, weather the storm? how they should go about things with Trae Young being out.
I mean, for me now, they're gonna have to lean on DeJounte Murray a hell of a lot more. Another person is Bogdanovich. Also,
Yeah.
we got to see what he can bring to the table. I think, like I said, he needs to be more consistent, and play a hell of a lot better for them. Because DeJounte Murray can only do so much, and obviously he's gonna have to play a big part. But I think, like I said, the biggest thing is getting Sadiq Bey to play better. DeAndre Hunter is going to have to play better. Clint Capella, is going to have to play a lot better. With Anikwe out for a little bit. Also, with that, Bruno also has to play a little bit better. So this team collectively need to be moving forward, and they're still, in my mind right now, very disappointing in a lot of things. I mean, I thought a hell of a lot more from this team. Ever since seeing them have that battle with Philadelphia, I felt like this team could be one of the better teams in the East. So for me, I think that it is better for DeJounte Murray. He's going to have to play extremely well, making that big move to go get Bogdanovich and pay them and all that damn money. We need to see something from him. Already hearing the talks of them trying to move DeJounte Murray, it sounded like it was a better idea to not at this point. But now, with the team on his shoulders somewhat, I think, we'll see him step up. But I really feel like it's more so about Donovan, man. I mean, he's been so inconsistent. So I think that seeing him play better, Sadiq Bey be more consistent, and Hunter, I think this team can kind of, move in the right direction. But those are the key guys that they're going to have to get this team moving forward, especially with Trae Young being out.
I think for me, I look like this. Like if they got rid of Murray at trade deadline and trade deadline goes down like this, like Terrence said, do you at least take a little bit to kind of reset things a little bit? But the only problem is, and I don't know, I have to look and see real quick. I don't know if they own their first round pick for the NBA draft. Because, they did that trade with the Spurs and all that stuff. And I don't know if they own their first round pick. Let me check real quick. I'm looking. Let me.
That's going to determine a lot, of that because what the pieces that they do have, they have a lot of depth on that team. It's just the inconsistency. So the decision that they have this pick or not lets us know how they can move forward.
It seems like they may own their pick this year, so if they want to tank, it won't hurt. Let's see, pulling it up. Let's see. It wouldn't hurt to do that. But I just like, yeah. So yeah, they do own their own pick for right now. So it won't hurt to maybe explore that. But the problem is, and I think I said this on Adam Carter's show, on Chi-Town, the Chi-Town show, like a couple weeks ago, when we talked about the Bulls and stuff like that. I mentioned to him, like, yeah, the Bulls can try to tank or whatever, but you got at least 3 teams in your own conference who suck. And the Pistons, Wizards, and the Hornets. Who the Hornets have been playing a little bit better. I'll give them that. But got those 3 teams there. And then you go look at the West. Spurs, Trailblazers. That's at least 5 teams right there that you gotta hurdle from in the standings to kind of at least get a good ass spot right there. So in Memphis too, they trying to tank. So it's just to answer Terrence's question, I think you just gotta try to push forward and kind of just hope for the best. And you better just hope Brooklyn and Toronto don't catch fire here late in the season.
Well, the thing about the Hawks that, like I said, I'm agreeing with you with them trying to catch. They have to go with it because you ain't got Bogdanovich. You traded for Sadiq Bey. You got Jalen Johnson, who's coming into his own. DeAndre Hunter. You have a roster that I feel like can be very competitive. So if you tank, first of all, what are you drafting? And who's going to possibly be moved?
Yeah.
Like, now it'd be different if this would be more understanding if they traded away DeJounte Murray. And they didn't have, that guy to come in and make that big of a difference. So now, now they need somebody to. Now they say, well, hell, you know what? This team is not. You got a couple of pieces, but your quarterback of your team is not there for a while. Okay, now we consider we got this first pick. Now we may be able to trade and go grab a few things, but that's not the case. You got DeJounte Murray, and now you got the rest of these pieces. This team shouldn't take a huge drop off, in my opinion. So I feel like now this team could be a team that's very competitive, should be very competitive, but sitting at 24-32 is a head scratcher in my mind. So again, I think that they need to, like you said, stick it out and try to get things in the right direction. But if they can't get things in the right direction, man, you got to move some of these pieces.
Yeah.
It just not it's not going to work in my mind. How I'm looking at it, there's no way because you got a hell of a lot of pieces. If I can pull up Bogdanovich contract really quick, you went and got this guy 4 years, $68 million. So you give him a nice little contract, and it's just like he should play better. So for me, I think that if they can't move in that right direction, or make the playoffs and be a very consistent team, even without Trae Young, something has to happen. Whether it's on the coaching staff or it's that roster, there has to be a move somewhere. And now, even talking about Bogdanovich, I see now he's starting to wake up. This pop 2 threes back to back in the third quarter. So I think that this team has a lot of the pieces. They just got to press forward and move forward, and they're in the East.
Yeah, I think like Jen, how you doing tonight, ma'am? Like Jen is bringing up too. It's hard to tank with how bad the lowest teams are, and it's this kind of you're the Hawks. We've been talking about the Hawks for the past couple of years, like like unleft potential that they've been leaving off for the past couple of years. All the talent they drafted, it seemed like they kind of just been wasteful. When they got DeJounte Murray, I thought, damn, that's a hell of a strong backcourt with him and Trae Young. hasn't, produced the results that I hoped for. And like you mentioned, if they don't make the playoffs, whatever, you got to consider moving some pieces. Who do you move? I don't know. Maybe Trey Young. I mean, you could be on. I mean, if you're ownership, or whatever, you could be honest. Like, hey, we tried it for a while. We had one decent run to the Eastern Conference Finals. This never really materialized. We signed back. We kind of hedge on bits on guys that do good for us, but it never will materialize. Like a Bogdanovich and DeAndre Hunter. Probably more DeAndre Hunter because I think it's a more bad contract for what he produced for the team. And you got the same type of player in Jalen Johnson, who is leapfrog over him in terms of, what he does for the team. And then big man wise, Capella. What does he going? I mean, are you going to keep him around? Just a lot of questions with this team that they got to figure out in the off season. But right now, they're tied up in the third quarter, 58 all with your Orlando Magic. Going to the fourth quarter, late in the fourth quarter, the Cleveland Cavaliers look like they're going to finish this game out against the Wizards 114 to 105. Jaren Allen with 22 points, 12 rebounds. Evan Mobley, 21 points, 6 rebounds. Darius Garland, 17 points, 7 assists for him. Donovan Mitchell, only 16 points for him. Caris LeVert, 18 points off the bench with 12 rebounds. That's a great game for him off the bench. And then Isaac Okoro, 7 points for him. For the Washington side of things, Kuzma, 27 points for him. Landry Shamet, I'm surprised he's starting. 15 points for him. Bagley, 9 points and 9 points, 9 rebounds for him for the Washington side of things. I watched Washington a little bit, D-Lock, a couple of days ago. It's like they do a few decent things right in the first, each quarter, but then at the end of each quarter, it's like the bottom falls out with them. I don't know what it is. It's just like, okay, y'all playing pretty decent. The next you know, you look up, they're down by double digits at the end of each quarter. I don't know what it is, coaching or talent, but they just suck. I'm sorry to say that. If you're a Washington fan, y'all just suck. But let's continue. The Lakers, they lose to the Suns today, 123 to the Suns. Suns wins 123-113. I had to work today, and the times I peeked in at this game, it seemed like the Lakers make a comeback, but the Suns just punch it back down. LeBron had 28 points. Anthony Davis had 22-14. Russell had 20 points. But other than that, it's just like Spencer Dinwiddie only chipped in 3 points. What you think of the Spencer Dinwiddie experience so far with the Lakers?
I mean, I think the Spencer Dinwiddie we see the first time with the Brooklyn Nets, we're not going to see that. I don't. That part of him is probably done. I mean, I feel like he was a hell of a player then, still is at some point, but he's in a mixture now where he's sharing time with D'Angelo Russell and the rest of them guards. So you're not going to see that full all out Dinwiddie that we've seen. And I feel like it sucks because we thought when I seen him. Remember when we seen him playing with that was a totally different Spencer Dinwiddie. And now it just seems like he hasn't been that same person. But I think that him being with the Lakers gives him a little bit more depth. I think we'll see more of him or the difference that he will make during the playoffs if they can get there. But for me, I'm not too excited on what I'm seeing because he just hasn't been that same player that we've seen. And now, hopefully, we could see a difference at some point moving forward. But we always look at the one that was in Brooklyn the first time. We thought he was going to be that guy, same guy, and that we ain't gonna see that guy anytime soon, especially not in the LA jersey.
I think this for me is just like his play's been down for the past year or so. Like ever since he tore the ACL, it's just like his play has gone down. And I just think it's just like I think they were kind of fooling themselves on how he's going to be for them. I mean, I'm not saying he could find himself. It's just like if it's like 4 years ago, I would love this move, but it's just like so far, it's just like he had a quiet 3 points today against the Phoenix Suns. I was just like, where's the pop? We're kind of looking for. So I just like, I don't know. It's just like I'm not. I mean, you signed for cheap, so it's not the end of the world. But it's just like it's always kind of been like a Lakers story over the years. They since the turn of the century, they get these kind of guys to help with their team, but they don't really deliver the results like you hoped. Like Ramonovich, the 6'10" forward, Ramon Sessions, a host of other guys you could just throw out there and like the Lakers put out there and they never really materialized as you hoped. So he only had 3 points. Grayson Allen for the Suns had 24 points. Kevin Durant 22 points as well. No Bradley Beal in today's matchup, but no problem for them because they led the majority of the game as well. Bobo had a strong showing off the bench, 11 points for him as well. Other scores real quick. New Orleans up on Chicago 71-66. Brandon Ingram back in the lineup, 18 points for him. Zion with 13 points, 9 assists so far for him, and 5 rebounds so far. For the Chicago side of things, Vooch, 15 and 9 so far. DeMar DeRozan's 14 points. Ayo DiMaggio, 14 points, 8 assists for him as well. Sorry about that. For him so far as well. To stay with New Orleans real quick, what do you make of that that fight that happened between the Pelicans and the Heat this past weekend? We seen Najee Marshall, Jimmy Butler get tangled up, and then each of them put their hands around each other's throat. And then next, when things kind of simmered down a little bit, you got Jose Alvarado and Thomas Bryant come off their benches and squaring up and start swinging on each other. And then on top of all that, you had a fan who threw something into the mix by the scores table. What do you make of that? I don't. You've seen the videos and stuff like that. What do you make of that situation? All that on that stuff. What do you make of that? And Jimmy Butler's comment saying he's not worried about the Pelicans. What you think of that whole situation that happened this past weekend?
Well, for me, I feel like it definitely got very serious after the whole thing with Zion. I think that obviously protecting your teammate is huge, but it's at a point now where these teams are just, these players are just taking it too far. Like, they get to the point to where they are getting in these physical brawls, and it's just like, what's the purpose of it? You know, what is the end? What is the purpose of doing that? So for me, I feel like, trying to go one up on a team and you're getting ejected. Like, I know it's a physical sport. We talked about it with Draymond, the Draymond situation. But I do understand, protecting your teammate and wanting to make sure, hey, I got your back regardless. But for the time being, a lot of this does not need to be done. I mean, I know words are going to be talked about. Hell, I just seen a video of Angel Reese, shooting free throws, and she was just talking smack to somebody else, and that's part of the game, like part of, the game, part of it in any sport.
Yeah.
So this is something that, is going to happen, and some of these players need to know where they stand with that and how they need to react towards it. But every, time somebody gives you, I guess, a smart aleck remark or saying a few things, doesn't mean that you need to respond, in a specific way. Now, there's obviously some things that you can't say that is crossing the line. And there are some players that did that purposely to egg you on. I mean, I remember Reggie Miller used to talk about, some of the things that he would say just to bother players, to get them off their game. And that's the purpose of them doing that. So I think a lot of times, when you see these brawls, there are words that are being thrown, and they've probably been jawing at each other, all game. But now when you see a huge foul like that, that is what kind of gets things like moving forward. But at the same time, you got to be able to hold your composure at some point. And that's something that, as an athlete, I'm sure is very tough to do. But this is something that has to be consistently done, because if not, we'll see these brawls often, and then now somebody's getting hurt, and now ejections and suspensions. And what the issue is, they get suspended and miss important games. We're talking about the Hawks wanting to have that chance to maybe get back in the playoff run and get in a good spot. But if you have players that get suspended or, different brawls, that doesn't happen. So, these players got to understand that. But what is so crazy about all this, you rarely see a lot of this during playoffs. Rarely. So during the playoffs, they know how to hold their composure. But during the season, a lot of times now they don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
So that's just something that, that's another head scratcher there. Now that the games are super important and what's at stake, well, hell, that could be the same thing in the regular season. Because, this John Outhill, I remember, I think it was last year with the Magic and Detroit Pistons had a big brawl. So, these are the same things that needs to be addressed. And these athletes know that. And also, you're going to get fined too. But do you really want to deal with that? But again, I think that, what led to it is, and I understand protecting your teammate, having a few words to say, hey, man, chill out or whatever, stuff like that. But at the same time, coming up to each other, throwing hands or whatever, what's going to come with that. ejections, suspensions, and fines, and that's something that the NBA does not want to happen. So when you do something like that, an automatic suspension is definitely going to happen. Also, possibly a fine as well.
I just think the hands around the neck and stuff like that. That's kind of wild right there. To kind of like do for each of them and all that stuff. I'm like, damn, y'all kind of wild right there. And then like we know about Jose Alvarado. He's kind of real feisty dude and all that type of stuff. Like we get that. But excuse me. But we get that about him. It's just like, dog, like not everything's like, I know in the situation it's heated, but not everything's about a bowdy type of situation. And then for you to Thomas Bryant to have words like that and to start swinging at each other. Like I give him credit, Thomas Bryant's 6'10", and he's about like what, 5'11", 6 foot. So
yep, somewhere around there.
So to have the courage to step up to the dude like that, but sometimes you just gotta chill sometimes. And then that damn fan. I don't know what the punishment is going to be for him. I don't know how old this fan is. Because me and you, we seen Detroit. The people, y'all in the chat, y'all seen Detroit. And yes, ma'am, Jim. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, Miss Jen. Yeah, 6 players did get suspended. I think Brian Alvarado got the most of it, if we're being honest. Let me pull that up real quick. Let me pull that. Come on now. Yeah, Butler and Marshall, they got each suspended 1 game. And Brian Alvarado got 3 games for the incident. And then also, yeah, you bring up the 6 players. Minnesota and Brooklyn had a little tussle as well. Last night as well. Dennis Schroeder got mad and he got tussle with Mike Conley. They all those guys got mad. All that type of stuff. So you had that tussle there as well last night. And then also, I don't know if you saw this or not, the Hornets and Warriors, they got into a tussle. Grant Williams and Miles Bridges and some of the bench guys with the Warriors, they got into a tussle as well. So much so that Draymond said, Grant Williams is a fake tough guy, and saying, you talk too much and that's why you got traded from Dallas. I guess that rehab and stuff went on D-Lock.
Nope. I mean, he's going to be, Draymond is going to be Draymond at one point. And it's going to show at some point. So there it is.
Yeah, this is what Green said. Draymond said, trying to find the exact quote. Basically, Kerr and Clifford shaking hands at the end of the game until the chaos happened. And then, both coaches spring into action. Draymond says he get into it with everybody this year, and he came over to our bench and thought he was about to have a friend. Green said, "Ain't no friends over here, my man. Like, you got to go down there and talk to your guys. You can't come over here and talk to us about what just happened with our players. Like, no, we support Quinones, who's the guy he got in a couple with. Williams, who is currently the president of the NBA Players Association. That's why they got a bad sucker deal. Leading great to insult him in comparison to previous athletes who held the role. Green later said he layered his jabs by alluding to a report from ESPN's Tim McMahon that said Williams was traded from the Dallas Mavericks because his attitude rubbed people the wrong way. Now, I asked our brother Drewski, who does our Dallas show every Wednesday night, 9 Central, 10 Eastern. I asked him this, D-Lock, like, have you heard? Because he goes to the games and stuff like that, in Dallas. And I kind of asked him, like, have you heard anything about Grant Williams and stuff like that? He said, nah, I ain't really heard too much. So I don't know, maybe it's like a league circle thing,
right?
And maybe us as who does as podcasters, whatever, and fans who go to these games really don't kind of see these type of things. And we, like you just alluded to, you talking about Angel Reese and stuff like that. These guys and gals, they talk and stuff like that. And some of these guys like to talk so much, but I ain't think talking so much will get you traded. If that's the case, Draymond would have been traded a long time ago.
My point.
So I just think it's something else had to be internal going on there. Like, here's the never quote what Draymond said. Talking too much kind of got you out of Dallas. Like overdoing it. That's kind of like the pot con, that quote. He's over there talking too much now. Might want to slow down and stop all that tough guy stuff. Draymond. Bridges, who shoved Green's teammate, but that was apparently fine by Green standards. Miles Bridges is my guy. That's my little brother. So I'm not going to sit here and going on Miles. Miles can do no wrong to me. It's like he says one thing and puts his foot in the mouth saying another thing.
Yep.
And for those that don't know about Miles Bridges, he just came back this season from a 30-game suspension for domestic violence issues that he has been having for the past couple years. So much so that he lost he wasn't suspended by the league, but he lost like a year's worth of salary because he didn't play last year because of his domestic violence situation. And on top of that, before the season got started, he got caught up in another domestic situation. Like, I know Bridges and Draymond went to Michigan State, so that's that bond there. But still, if Draymond's coming back from the suspension, the rehab, or whatever you want to call it, the talking to the therapist, somebody in the league probably looking at these comments saying, like, dude, really? Like, really?
Like, that didn't help anything.
Yeah, it's like, and then, Green went on to say this about Grant Williams. He can't be being like this tough guy, Green said. It's absolutely wrong for him. Like, he's really a nice guy, and for some reasons, he keeps trying to jump on the unlikable side. And I must tell you, it's not always fun over here. It's not always a good time. I don't know, man. He need to figure it out. It's like the stuff he said about Grant Williams, you can probably see he probably picked up some stuff from the counseling. But the stuff, talk about Miles Bridges is like I know that's your dog and stuff, but You can't put everybody. You can't pick and choose everybody right there.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was this interesting, what he said about Grant Williams. They won the game. The Hornets had a nice little winning streak going since the trade, but I just think Draymond, like, you can't talk about everything. You know what I'm saying? I know he does a podcast and all that stuff, whatever, but it's just like you can't talk about everything. All that stuff.
Nah, he doing that for likes and clicks.
And you're doing for likes and kicks for your show. Which I understand controversy creates cash. Shout out to Eric Bischoff. But still, you can't say these type of things. But on a side note, D-Lock, you sent me an article earlier today that about the Hornets, and didn't I call this about last week?
Yep.
Let me pull it. I'll pull it up right now. Tony Jones, who covers the Utah Jazz for The Athletic, put this interesting quote out about regarding the Hornets. I promise you, we get to the Duke stuff here in a second. He says, "I think Brandon Miller, number two overall pick this past draft, is the best player on the roster, despite LaMelo's counting stats being superior to Miller's. While I watch Miller play, I see a younger version of Paul George, which Miller has said he's patented his game after. As controversial as this will sound, I would trade Ball and build around Miller." When you saw that and said that to me, what were your initial thoughts of that quote of what Mr. Jones said?
At first I kind of like, damn, Davidson did say this, because it just was like, hell, I was like, hey, he must be working in the front office to get that information. But for me, Brandon Miller has been playing outstanding. I mean, I think that throughout, like you say, he's mirrored his game around Paul George. He's playing at a high level. Obviously, what is helping this situation is LaMelo was hurt. Then you can tell that they were good with moving forward with him by some of the pieces that they've traded away. That was a huge sign. They were pleased with how he's playing. Now, like I said, he is in the season with hell. Victor Wembanyama is playing good. Chet Holmgren. So the Rookie of the Year talk is going to be something that is big. But it is a see what you had with LaMelo now is like, damn, like, you thought you could build your piece around this guy, and now he's going to actually be the one that you ship out because of the better player that you have. So now, I mean, I think this could be that turn that Charlotte is looking for. He can be that player that can make a big, big difference on this team, which they need. Going to go pay all that money for Gordon Hayward, that didn't do anything. We talked about it before they signed him, and we knew the injury history of him, and now, boom, this happened. So for me, I wouldn't be surprised. The only question is what teams do call, and what are they willing to give up? Because I still think LaMelo is a hell of a player, but the way Brandon Miller is playing, he's clearly the player that you could build around and see a long term with. So for me, I think that this is something that you've seen when he got drafted. Called it and said, hey, look, this is what the hell I think is going to happen. This is the type of player that he is. Obviously, having his off the court issues at the time, and now, he's been playing outstanding. So now we have to see, what is the next move with LaMelo, because now he has his injury issues and the inconsistency play that we see. Now you have to make that decision. And the way Brandon Miller is playing, if he continues to play like this definitely is a player that they need to consider building around and getting off of having to pay LaMelo Ball.
I mean, only reason I brought that up last week, it's just because it's like he's been there for a few years, and I think this has been like a trend in the NBA for the past at least 20 years or so. Some of these teams just stick with these young guys, kind of hoping something turns around, but it doesn't turn around. Now, it could factor a lot of things: bad drafting by the front office, bad contracts, bad coaching. Get these guys there, and they don't want to really be at these places. Could be a number of factors, but look at the Sacramento Kings. Look how bad they have been before Mike Brown got into the fold. Look at how many years they hung on DeMarcus Cousins, kind of hoping, he'll figure it out and kind of lead him to playoffs and stuff like that. Look how that turned out for them, just hoping and waiting. Wasn't injured much, all that stuff, but just kind of hoping and waiting. Look over the years and stuff like that. Kevin Love, all those years with Minnesota, hoping and waiting. Same thing, Andrew Wiggins, hoping and waiting to happen something to happen. Hell, even with the Lakers, all those young guys and stuff like that, post Kobe, kind of hoping and waiting. So you can throw in a lot of teams in that situation, hoping and waiting. And I think you're the Hornets. I think you kind of maybe see enough evidence to kind of maybe try something else. Like Jen's Cavaliers, post LeBron. Kind of hoping and waiting Kyrie to be that dude. Or Tristan Thompson be a nice two-way player. Or maybe Anthony Bennett return to something, which didn't happen. But then you get LeBron back, you can trade for Kevin Love. The pecking order goes down a little bit, and then you off to the races. You making consecutive final runs. I just think, this league kind of like some of these teams in the league kind of hope and wait that these guys that they draft kind of turn into something. Mainly these GMs. Now you look at the Hornets, Mitch Kupchak gone from the front office, which is long overdue. Like you mentioned, the bad Gordon Hayward contract, the bad Terry Rozier contract. Get the, Nicholas Batum, his contract.
Mm-hmm.
So, these type of deals and your team's not going anywhere, where are you going? And now, you gave LaMelo Ball that big extension. Can he play enough games for you to kind of get to where you want to go? And like I said, it's just me. When I said it last week, I thought it's just like, don't be surprised you start hearing whispers about that. But some other people, like Mr. Jones, brought up, like, hey, I don't think it's really controversial to think about. Get out and you can sell what you can sell. Like I mentioned, like last week, the Sixers still haven't given Tyrese Maxey a max deal. If that's something you can sell Philly on, to hey, LaMelo Ball, star player, big guard, blah blah blah. Can you sell that and get Maxey in return, for example? Can you, if Atlanta Hawks are selling, can you maybe get Dejounte Murray? Maybe try to swing for Jalen Johnson. Do something there. It's just like a lot of options that you can probably do to maybe get something, get the bill by Brandon Miller. So when you see me in that article, I was like, I'm not really surprised. I'm not surprised that somebody else had that same mindset. It's like, well, the team been 4-0. He's been more consistent. You know, uh, trying to see if they're they're playing later on tonight against the Blazers, and they just see how that Scoot Henderson and Miller matchup will shake out. But if they win again, with Miller as the kind of like that quote unquote primary focus, the Hornets got some interesting questions in the all season. But I'll let you last word on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's questions that need to be answered with that, especially knowing what you have in Brandon Miller, and you're looking at what kind of player he's going to be moving forward. But they have to be able to accept that. But again, as a lot of teams, it was hard to move away from a piece that you were building around in LaMelo Ball. You're thinking that you could pair him with a Brandon. That's the reason why you drafted him. But with how his career has been going, and Charlotte just haven't had it successfully. You just haven't had that success yet. So now you get that chance to build around, your young piece, and now you have to move forward with that. And I think that if they can do that and trust it, now continue to build, I think Charlotte would be a team to, could be an up and coming team. But again, you're talking about a team. This is one of the teams in the East that has been trashed for a long time.
Yeah.
So if they can kind of get things rolling in the right direction, then maybe now we can talk about hey, maybe them being more consistent in the East. But you have your piece that you can move forward with, and if you can continue to do that and just build around him and trust the process and move forward with it, I think that'd be pretty decent. But again, I think that now you have to see what you get in return. Because I think that if you do trade LaMelo Ball, you got to get something worth. You got to get something really good. So for me, I think that if you're gonna move with Brandon Miller, move in that direction. But now continue to build around them and see where you can go with that. But again, we've seen teams try that, but start and then just it's not moving fast enough, and they start over. Too quick. So if you're gonna make this decision with Brandon Miller as your guy, build around him. Give it some time. Put the right people in the right place and move forward and see how it goes.
So we'll leave on that note. I think that's something, like I said, it's something to monitor if it's going to be real. And also, I think they should make a coach change. That's my opinion. To go to the call side of things, D-Lock, real quick. Last night, or yesterday afternoon, what you want to call it, eating, whatever. you had Duke losing to Wake Forest. Not the end of the world and all that stuff. Duke has, Wake Forest has beaten Duke before. We've seen that before. All that type of jazz, all that stuff. Hunter Salas, he had 29 points for Demon Deacons. 6 rebounds for him. As well, Kyle Filipowski, 17 points, 8 rebounds for him. 5 assists as well for the Blue Devils. So, Wake Forest wins that game. All that good jazz. And kind of keeps them in good play for the tournament committee and all that good stuff. With that win, moving to 18 and 19. But I think the bigger story, D-Lock, that's where okay, that's anyway, sorry. That's the Hunter's highest kid from Gonzaga. So yeah, okay. Now okay, it makes sense. Okay. I thought you said Gonzaga. But anyways, moving forward. After the game, of course, you beat Duke, it's like the biggest thing in the world. The fans stormed the court. I'm not a big fan of that, but whatever. In the midst of this storming the court, D-Lock, Mr. Kyle Filipowski was in the middle of that storming the court. Now, the first initial video you probably saw him falling down and stuff in the midst of the crowd, and he legit got hurt with his ankle and stuff like that. But there's been other video, D-Lock, of him in a Skycam, kind of, in the midst of the crowd, but in the midst of it, while he was walking, and the student body was running and stuff like that, he seemed to push a Wake Forest student, so much so that I think he tripped on his own damn feet and got hurt that way. Like he pushed the kid to the ground. The kid fell. And it seemed like somebody right behind Kyle pushed him right behind as well, which probably didn't help matters for him. What do you make of this situation? Like, what should all parties do to kind of avoid these situations down the line? Do you fine the schools more? I know there's been fines regulated there for storming the court and all that stuff and field. What should be more done about this type of stuff?
Well, I think the biggest thing is when you do have like a storming, the biggest thing is knowing that the school got to know what's about to happen. If you see an upset that's about to happen, obviously Duke getting beat at Wake Forest, they know they're about to storm the court. Like, coaches and players got to be a little bit more aware of that, in my mind. Because obviously we can talk about rules as far as what the conference would say as far as what they should do. But a lot of times, like, you're not going to control the students. You can find all that stuff, but if you got hundreds of thousands of students, storming the court, there's really not much that you could do. You could set rules and say, okay, well, we're not going to have that. But a lot of times, I don't think this is the last time that's going to happen. So they got to have better preparation. This is something that teams got to talk about, conferences got to talk about for these things, because upsets are going to happen. It's going to happen in football in different areas. So for me, I would think that, this is something that needs to be prepared for, talked about in, practices and meetings and stuff like that. So these players can be prepared for these situations in case they do occur.
I look at like this. I get you beat Duke and stuff like that, but I never understood storming the court or storming the field like that. Like I never understood it. I don't like it because we don't know what's going to happen, and especially as an opposing player, you don't know what's going to happen. So I never really liked it. It's like I always thought it was lame to me. I don't care if it was the number one team in the country or you're a hated rival. I was just like, it's like, what the hell? You know what I'm saying? What the hell? But I don't know. Maybe you start finding the schools more. You know, if you're a away team and you kind of get the sense, like you allude to, you got the sense they might storm the court, whatever. If you're a away team, just kind of hang at your bench, whatever, and maybe have security find you another exit to your locker room. Something. There's always got to be contingency plans for everything, and that's how I kind of see it. And then to the players, especially the away players, don't put yourself in situations that you get yourself hurt, because there's cameras everywhere. We've seen about like Alabama, Tennessee, not this past season, but the season before. Tennessee and beat Alabama in what, 15, 16 years. They finally beat them. They rushed the field. Like I said, it's still lame.
Yep.
And then you see some video, like you see the wide receiver Jermaine Burton pushing a girl. Now, if you're
and that's the thing, that stuff is going to happen if they're not prepared correctly, athletes and fans. Somebody's going to get hurt, different things. So there needs to be a better preparation in my eyes.
Yeah, there's got to be a better preparation of it. For Jermaine Burton, I don't think it was a great look for him because it seemed like the girl was just kind of just rushed to the middle of the field and he just pushed her. Not a great look for him. For Kyle Filipowski, same thing. So the guy was the dude trying to get in the middle of the court. I know in the heat of the moment you're mad, but just don't put your hands on nobody. Just have your hands up and walk. I think that's probably your best bet to do. Kind of have your hands up, move through the crowd, and hope for the best. But I was thinking, for all parties involved, you gotta think smart and stuff like that. And also to the student body as well. Some not everything is resort or somewhere to court. Duke ain't like Duke in years past. You know what I'm saying? So the storm the court in that situation, I think, like I said, it is lame. I think it's just lame.
Yeah. I agree with you there.
Duke ain't no hated rival. Now, if somebody from Carolina has been listening to this and want to correct me, okay, y'all can do that. But I just don't. I never seen Wake Forest and Duke as like hated rivals like that. I know they both in Carolina, but I always see I always seen the Duke and the Carolina hatred. I get that. I seen it like the Duke and NC State hatred. I get that. But Wake Forest though, if it wasn't for Virginia in the same conference, I'll put them as the nerd school. But I think Virginia may have them beat there. But I'll let you have the last word on that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I said, I think my biggest thing is how do you prepare for that? I mean, you don't want to go in there and say that the team is going to lose, but you want to go in there and say that you want to be prepared for anything to happen. And with that being said, upsets do happen, and you got to be prepared for anything happen because it ain't like these kids are going to walk around saying, "Well, let me get around this person to make sure they don't get hurt." They trying to go out there and celebrate. So,
Yeah.
my mind moving forward, preparation for every school is something that's needed because I when see a player go down, that can impact how that team can move forward in the tournament. And hell, even in college football, same thing. So I think this is something that something needs to be talked about because this is not the last time it's going to happen. We're going to see upsets. We're going to see court storm, field storm. We're going to see it later on in the season as well, especially during conference play coming around, conference championships. Conference tournaments. We definitely going to see it. So now that you've seen this, they need to be better prepared in my mind.
So yeah, Wake Forest, they beat Duke and even lost Duke. They lost their big man for a little bit. And just kind of look at the standings real quick at the ACC. Let me pull that up real quick. I mean, Duke is still back behind Carolina, who's 13-3 right now in conference play. Duke is 12-4. Virginia's 11-6, who lost Saturday as well to North Carolina. Very low scoring game. I must say, Virginia fans are kind of getting long in the tooth of Tony Bennett. They're kind of getting long in the tooth of Tony Bennett. They like him, but it's like the offense, what he runs, is kind of like, dog, can you upgrade a little bit? But you got there number 3, Wake Forest, number 4 in the ACC standings, 10-6. So that's why I think it's this lame. Like, you got number 4 in the ACC right now. Like, why are we throwing the court? Then you got Clemson, Pitt, and North Carolina State at 9-7. Syracuse at 9-8. Florida State, your alma mater, 8-8. And after that, there's like Virginia Tech, BC, Miami, Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, and sorry ass Louisville at the end. To go to the women's side of things, and I brought this up Friday night on this subject here on the Pac-12 women's side of things. I tweeted out Friday, like, the Friday night's action on the Pac-12 side of things and women's side of things could have a big impact for the Pac-12 tournament. And I said this on Friday. If you're Stanford, you can't fall for the banana in the tailpipe against Arizona. And lo and behold, and you try to keep it above water above USC, Oregon State, and Colorado also. And I said this, D-Log, like, okay, if you win this game, you kind of like really pull away. But now you lose to Arizona like they did 68-61 on Friday with Jada Williams having 23 points. Despite having 21-14 from Kiki Ifarian, Arizona got the upset on the road. And I know looking at today's action and stuff like that, Stanford bounced back and beat Arizona State, but still, you still don't have those type of losses on your resume. Like looking at today's scores, Utah beat USC 74-68. Our girl Juju had 30 points but that's like off 10 for 30 shooting. You know, Utah, the girl Pilly, she had 23 points, 9 rebounds. You know, you had Young off the bench for 13 points as well. This is like sometimes you can't have bad losses like that to put you in bad situations. Now, granted, USC Oregon State lost today, D-Lock, and Stanford is still top of the hill. But I just kind of look at this like here, it's like can't lose to bad teams like Duke and Wake Forest. Wake Forest is solid, but they still kind of like the redhead stepchild and stuff like that. And you got tournament play coming up here pretty soon, like next month soon. And you know, you talk about the NCAA and all this stuff. I'm gonna get your thoughts on this. Like, I think it's still a wide open field in both the women's and the men's. Like, I can't really pinpoint and say, okay. Somebody asked me, like, okay, who do you think win the NCAA tournament? I really can't say. For
Right.
For the women's side of things, I could confidently say South Carolina, but I can't give you a couple other teams after that.
Then you're definite. Right. Right.
Like, I was like, okay, I can see South Carolina winning it, but I can't. But can I throw UConn there? Sure. Can I throw LSU in there? Sure. Can I throw Louisville, Notre Dame, Stanford, USC, UCLA, Iowa in there? Maybe. But at times they kind of show me like, you kind of play down to your competition a little bit.
There's no team that's head and shoulders above anybody, basically.
And especially in the men's. You know, St. John's, they beat Creighton today, 80-66. Marquette, they won big over Xavier. Go back to Saturday's action. Alabama, couldn't survive a hot shooting Kentucky in their game, won 17-95. UCF beat Texas Tech 75-61. UConn beat Villanova, but they kind of had some up and down games. Arizona State beat Washington State 73-61. So I'm looking. South Carolina beat Ole Miss. Kansas State beat BYU. So I just like looking. I was like, damn, you can't really pinpoint on either side who's going to win. Is that great for everybody that's parodying college basketball like this? I don't know. But I'll let you get in. Like, where we at in this last week of conference play or so? Where do you see things turning about in your eyes?
I'm very much with you. I mean, I'm looking at there's no team that's head and shoulders above anybody like that. So for me, like it's an up and down thing. I mean, you see North Carolina, who I watched, obviously being in the same conference as Pitt, and them being North Carolina, I've seen them have good, good games, and then look totally different. So for me, like there's no team that just makes me believe that okay, well, this team is definitely the team that's going to make that big difference. Hell, I'm seeing Pitt look like a team on that bubble. Have a decent streak going, and then take a major loss. So and we see that also in other teams. So there's no team for me that I can say, well, hey, you know what? I think this team is going to make that move and make a big difference, because I thought that one of the bigger teams that was huge to me was Duke. But to take a loss like that to Wake Forest was a big shocker. So, and on the women's side, I think the women's side you see more so of the superstars. You see the Juju, you see Angel Reese, you see Clark, Caitlin. So it's just like you see those and you want to see, okay, well, what's going to happen? You're thinking, okay, well, Caitlin Clark is this athlete right now that's doing a hell of a lot of great things. This team is going to be hard to beat. Then they take a huge loss. So at the same time, I think it's very inconsistent right now. But I love this part of it because I love it like this because now this gets a lot of fans tuned in because can't, when it's time to make these brackets, you don't have a team for sure that you can just say, well, hey, I think they're going to be in the final four or the final two, they're going to win championship, so let me fill out the rest. Nah, this can go either way. So you're going to see a lot more upsets. And again, it goes to what I said as far as seeing floors being stormed because you're going to see a lot of upsets possible, and I think that at the same time, if a team is not ready to play at every game, we're going to see a team make a big move. And so for me, I think that it's college basketball is at its best right now. And that's because you can't say, you can't pinpoint on who's going to be that team. It's very, very hard to do at this moment. So I like it right now like this. Now it makes you pay a lot more attention to not only just that one player, but the team's roster. And Sue's going to come in and play that big part. So South Carolina is looking like the top team, but we know how that goes. So for me, I'm enjoying every bit of this because now it makes it interesting so we can have, a hell of a lot more fans tune in.
Like on the women's side of things, in today's scores, we'll get out of here. Virginia upset Louisville 73-68, for example. Lose to a bad team 14-13. LSU, they beat Tennessee 75-60. Ohio State, number 2 team in the country, beat Maryland 79-66. Iowa beat Illinois 101-85. Caitlin Clark had a triple-double in that game as well to lead the Hawkeyes there. Kansas State losing to Kansas 58-55 on that front. South Carolina beat the crap out of Kentucky 103-55. Boy, Kentucky women's has kind of fallen off the past couple of years. And then, Stanford, we talk about Stanford, Arizona State, Utah, USC, Washington with the upset over Oregon State 61-51 on that front. UConn beat down DePaul, which ain't saying much, 104-67. Duke beating South Carolina State 69-58. Kara Lawson's squad still trying to find its way with her being at the head coach. So, like I said, a lot of parity, all that stuff. We'll see how things shake out with conference play coming up. The conference tournament play here in a couple of weeks or so, especially the smaller conferences, all that stuff. They'll be starting off here soon. So we'll keep an eye on things there in that front and keep you updated on the on Twitter/X at FastBreaker But this has been our show tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in with us here on IE Sports Radio. Appreciate y'all in the chat tonight. Thank y'all for staying with us for this hour and 20-minute show. D-Lock, how can people find you on social media?
You guys find me at Black-813 on Twitter. Find me on D-Lock813 on Instagram. Let them know they can find you at the show's page.
Terry Rodriguez, real quick. Yeah, UCLA lose to USC. Like I said, another bad loss, in the thick of things. And I don't think UCLA is going to win that Pac-12 tournament. Now, I could be wrong, but I don't think that's going to happen. But you can find the show's page at FastBreak at IESR. That's FastBreak IESR on Twitter/X. Do follow iSports Radio on all your social media feeds at Twitter/X, Facebook, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok as well, YouTube. You get all your latest shows on those streaming apps, all that stuff. SoundCloud, whatever. Google Podcast as well. Do go to iesportsradio.com for all your latest news and shows and feeds as well. I do another show on the side called The Crooks Process. You can follow that on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. You'll see the CP logo there in the profile pic. Do give me a follow there as well. Do follow me on Twitter /X at Spawn4288. That's Spawn4288 as well. But we'll be back next week, giving you all the news and scores around the world of basketball. Like I said, NCAA regular season, conference season wrapping up here soon. NBA going strong in the second half of the season. So do tune in next week. We'll talk about all those things. But till then, we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.